we have to listen more carefully than we do as a society. Thanks, Daryl. Denise, thank you everybody who's in queue for their patience. I'm going to get to all of you, I promise. Denise.
Hi, Gary. Hi, everyone. I do have a few points. So just to start with, the politicians, they know better. And I don't, do people not care about their legacy? For example, hearing out of her own mouth, I see her on the screen, and Lisa Murkowski saying, well, I did the best for Alaska, but I hope this bill doesn't pass because it's bad for the rest of the country. Do they not care about their legacy? Second point is they could have already gone after waste, fraud, and abuse. They didn't need to make cuts to go after waste, fraud, and abuse. And actually, some of it is, as people have brought up, the logjam of these providers getting away from things because there's so much bureaucracy and it's maybe hard to catch them. We're just adding more bureaucracy when people now are having to log in these 80 hours and who's keeping up with that, and it's just going to be a logjam there. Another point Francine brought up about a quarter of births being covered by Medicaid. It was actually, the numbers in 2023 are 41% of births in the U.S. are financed primarily by Medicaid. And of course, in rural communities, it's almost 50%. In states like Texas, it's almost 50%. And the SNAP assistance that's being cut, children don't deserve to have to struggle for food. It has nothing to do with them, and no matter what is going on with their parents. And many mothers are not deadbeats, but it's very difficult to provide food and everything your child needs when these mothers and single fathers may be in lower income jobs, and then at the same time they have to pay for daycare, they have to pay for rent, which is not inexpensive anymore, as well as utilities and gas and all the things. And when it comes down to it, do they have money to go to the grocery store and buy what their children need? And so it's not that everyone is gaming the system and is a deadbeat. There are many people who really do need this assistance. There's a huge difference between making $12 an hour than there is people who make it, a nice living. And another thing is, this is adjacent to the Medicaid, is there will be significant cuts, they say, to the ACA marketplace. And that's been a great program for people who were uninsured. A lot of kind of everyday people who were uninsured were able to get health care because they had some subsidies. And it's going to hurt a lot of small business owners. I've heard, people interviewed. It's going to hurt freelancers. I have a family member who's gone back to school to better themselves, and so they're working part-time. And it's going to be more difficult to qualify, to keep up with, and more expensive for people to be insured. So there's going to be a lot of people going without. Young people will think, oh, I don't really need insurance. It's too much now. And that can't help. And then one more thing, when we talk about these rural hospitals, so many of them are already struggling. And from what I've read, certain states get extra Medicaid funds to disperse to these hospitals. And at least I heard a doctor today on being interviewed, and he was talking about at least 25% are at risk of closing. For one, making, as we know, healthcare harder for people in rural communities, and especially when it's really needed. But another thing to think about is the medical jobs at these hospitals is one of the kind of best employers in the area, and the best incomes are the people who are able to, be employed in these hospitals and work in the medical field in these areas. And that will go away from these communities. So there's that effect as well. So anyway, those are just some of the points that I had to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. David.
Hey, Gary. So, the Congress people that voted for this, they just need to own the fact that this was a massive ploy to give tax breaks to more of the wealthiest in this country, on the backs of the poorest of this country and the most vulnerable. I've heard an argument that upwards of 20 million people will be affected